but I will give you some information.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm Giovanni Ribuoli from a student here, and I'm presenting to you the community of Sant'Egidio. It's a group of people and mostly students who volunteer in Rome. I'm sorry that the slides are just in Italian, but I will try to do my best with English. So it's a volunteering association where you can do many things. You can apply for an internship as a Sapienza student. This should have been emailed to you from La Sapienza a couple of weeks ago. But if you can't find it, you Google volunteer Sapienza and you will find it. We propose different activities to those who would like to join. And this is one we just started, but it's very interesting. We named it in a weird Italo-English way, Ecolab. So it's basically a very big space where we collect all the dresses and clothes who are given by people. So it's secondhand, everything is secondhand or vintage, as in a weird Italo-English way we used to say, where we prepare packages that are delivered in the city of Rome to centers, to the 23 centers where we distribute food and also clothes. But they also are flown to various conflict areas of the world, like Ukraine and the eastern coast of Mediterranean, which, as all of you are aware, is actually on hold. Something that one might not think about, but helping others can be done also in a remote way, so not being invested directly. But for those of you who are interested, we also propose something else, which is to get in touch with the city of Rome from a different perspective, which is the perspective of homeless people. 4 years ago, we opened this space. It's a former church, which has now been given to Sant'Egidio, and students from all the universities and all ages are helping 30, now we have 30 people sleeping there. And every evening we wait for them, we have dinner together, we welcome them, we have a little chit chat, and during the weeks we help them file job applications and many other things that help them get back on track, we would say, or simply getting a net which allows you and helps you to recover from the suffering of a life on the street. This is something that takes place on Tuesdays from 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. I don't know if you have any questions, but as a student myself, I would strongly recommend that. I was not from Rome, I'm not from Rome, and doing this helped me discover Rome from another perspective. We all know where the canteens are or where the fancy places, but this is a way to watch in a different way the whole of the city. So I thank you all, and if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to, or if online there are any questions, I'm more than willing to answer. And I thank you, the professor, for allowing us to do this presentation.
If you want more information about the association, if you want to collaborate with the association as a volunteer, you send me an email and then I send you an email. Okay, I send the colleague the email.
Otherwise, I can collect numbers, but I don't know if it's allowed. Posso raccogliere anche i numeri.
Yes, if there are people that want now to say yes, if they want to participate, they can write the telephone number or the email. In other way, you send me information, telephone number and email, and then I send him. Okay, also online. Online, there are students without visa now. So, but they will arrive in Italy, but not now, not in these weeks. No, ma loro già hanno fatto domande, sono proprio fuori, sono in Iran, altri paesi, stanno in attesa del visto per entrare in Italia.
Collaboriamo anche con l'ufficio che fai il nome dell'iscrizione, adesso purtroppo anche quelli che facciano la sapienza per la parte di questo
vedi? Certo, va bene. Ok, now tu fai come ti pare. Come stai a casa, fai come ti pare. Ok, we start the lesson? Sì. Ah sì, suo account. Questo che mandamela, questa qui l'ho tradotta così la giro. I can share this presentation with you on Google Classroom, translated in English, okay? Okay, now we can start the lesson. For students that are in present and that are online. So the first part of lesson is focused on visual literacy, a competence, a critical competence. I have to share the screen with the people online. Right. Verifica che si vede, Laura. Sì. Ok.
Ora no.
No.
Prima sì, quando me
No, adesso non si vede.
Ora no, prima sì. Stavo mandando in condivisione.
Ok. No. Okay. So we can start. We talk about some key concepts about visual literacy and critical competence. Before to start to talk about visual literacy, I want to ask you, what could be, in your opinion, visual literacy? What could be? Now you can say what you want. At the end of the course, no. But now you can share your opinions, your also individual definition of the key concepts of the course, of the topic of the course. So, for example, in your opinion, what could be visual literacy? Now, I think that in your life you hear this concept, no? You listen to this concept in, I don't know, in the university or in other context. I don't know. What could be visual literacy? Online? What is literacy? When you learn something, you know, you learn something about the visual code, the visual messages, we can say. Or for example, when you acquire some information, labels to analyze, to interpret, to know very well all visual text and so on. An example of visual text could be icons, images, photography, video, multimedia, image in the digital space, and so on. No? That's right. I give you some definition starting from the international literature. Also, when we talk about visual literacy, we talk about skills, soft skills that enable people, individuals, to find, interpret, evaluate, use, and create image and visual media. In your case, you have to acquire competencies to evaluate, but also to create image, to create photo using scientific criteria now connected to the visual literacy. So when we talk about visual literacy, we talk about soft competencies, because soft competencies means that you acquire a different way of mind, a different way of viewing the reality. No, you see image, you see the reality in the new eyes, because you have visual competencies. You recognize some aspect in the visual code that you can apply in your context. Another definition of visual literacy, the original definition is from John Debs, and include the skill set that the user must acquire in order to know and use all elements of the visual communication in the effective way, in our way, consciously, acquiring a general level of awareness of the production process. I hope that this is the final competence that you will acquire in this course, in my course. So when we talk about visual literacy, there are the elements that we have to know, to recognize. Very easy. Visual code, clear, no? If there isn't visual code, it is not possible to talk about visual literacy. Through the visual code, we have a visual perception of the reality mediated by different media. Starting from the visual perception, we develop a way of learning, visual learning. We develop, all people can develop, children can develop a new way to read, a new way to see the reality. And if you develop a visual learning, you develop a new way to think. You develop a visual thought. No? If you think that, for example, the television, the digital media change our way to analyze, to describe the reality, no? A new way also to understand what's happening in the reality. The visual code give us new tools, cognitive tools to understand the reality in new way, using our visual potentiality, capabilities. And then we can develop a visual communication. You have to develop a good visual communication as a visual designer, multimedia designer. In this slide, I give you all other definitions of visual literacy, no? Key skill group, or for example, a central tool of visual education. You can use the visual code to communicate, but also to educate, to change cognitive thought, we say before. And then the last scientific definition of visual literacy is a virtuous process of cognitive skill acquisition. So visual literacy includes a process of thinking, a process of analyzing the reality. What could be the competencies of the visual literacy? So there are many, many competencies. We start from the knowledge. It is the basis. You have to know something to apply the reality. You have to develop competencies to access to different kinds of visual information in the reality. You have to understand what could be criteria useful for you to do a good selection of images, starting from your interest, your goal, your needs. Then the third level of competencies is interpretation of the reality, interpretation of the image, different kind of image. Evaluation, that means to understand if this image is not good or bad, but it is useful for your objective. You know? You evaluate is the choices, graphic choices or design choices could be compatible with your idea, or the idea of the communication context where you work daily. Then the other competencies is application, where you have to apply some principles connected to the visual literacy in your project of the design. After the application, there is a design. Obviously, design, it is connected not only to application, but to create something that is innovative, that is new, that is scientifically justified. And then the last is the ethics. The ethics, I don't know if we talk about this topic in the last lesson, but we talk about the visual literacy in the last lesson. I don't remember. No, because I have 2 courses, so I confused. No, okay. The ethics, it is also important because when you choose different kind of image, in the web, in the digital field, you have to respect copyright, you have to respect the data of different kind, the owner, for example, of the image. There are the rules that you have to respect when you use different kind of image. So this is the description about what I say now with you, but you can find this information also online when I will share this presentation with you. Okay, now if we understand the set of many competencies in visual literacy that we have to acquire to work in this visual literacy, it is important to understand what could be the meaning of a data design process. Now, the design process is an evolution where there is the connection between the 2 actors, we can say, the producer and the user. You could be producer, but you could be also the user. As designer, you can be both. The main action of the producer, for example, if you want to produce something, the output, I can say general output, using the visual literacy, what do you have to do? The first thing that you have to do, analysis. You have to analyze information, data already available in the world, in your field, in the reality, in the web. You have to analyze the information about the topic that you want to create, that you want to develop on your project. Now, you have to observe. You select, starting from the observation, you select the project already done that could be useful for me because they use the combination of colors, of shape that I can propose in my project, for example, that I think that could be effective for reasons I don't know, and then I can eliminate other projects that, in my opinion, are not quality, are not good for design reasons, and then I can organize. Organize all information selected, starting from this organization. I create a synthesis, a picture about the state of arts that is the starting point to create something that could be innovative, starting from one topic, one problem, one social topic that I want to solve or want to develop with my design project. Starting from the data analysis, I can do the data presentation. The data presentation is a way, for example, if you have an owner, I can say a committer, we can say committer in English, that give you a task, you can analyze data starting from the synthesis. You give a new proposal. So you have to define your new proposal in editorial style. You have to develop a solution or innovative proposal starting from the initial, we can say, concept or key concept. This is the 2 steps of the design process for the producers. The third and the fourth steps of the data design process is focused on the user. For example, the user can say concept, can use data, I'm not sure to analyze, but observe data. They have to decode the information the design information, it can give the interpretation. No? This is the main action that the user generally do when the user is in front of information and data from the web, from the digital platform, from the television, I don't know, from other stimuli. Starting from this data consumption, the consumer can give decision on behavior. For example, your project, the design is very useful for me, gives me very good information that can change my vision of the reality of the problem, can influence my behavior of consumption. For example, if you think about the advertising, if you see a very good message in advertising, I change the new message in advertising. I can decide that the advertising propose a new message when this message can change my behavior, can change also my perception of the product, of the idea, of the one particular social and cultural topic, and so on. If one message is able to change something in the user, it is a good message. The changes could be cognitive, could be emotional, could be behavioral, and so on, but change something. When you create these changes in your user, your target, your message is communicative, in communicative point of view, effective. In this slide, I synthesize the standard of competencies and the data design process. For example, in production, when you do the data analysis, the data presentation, you have to use all standard of competence, no? Because you need the competencies to analyze, to select information, to evaluate, you interpret the best information. Also, you have competencies to produce, to apply some concept, and so on. But the same standard competencies are useful also for users, because the user, to understand your messages in design product, needs competencies, different kind of competencies. It could be competencies in design, competencies in communication, and so on. But they need knowledge, need also capability to analyze the reality starting from the personal background or other kind of background, and so on. So always user, producer use different kind of competencies to apply that design process as a producer and as users. Okay, it is complex now. I try to describe in an easy way. The visual literacy is complex because you know that there are many competencies. We understand this. We understood that there are many competencies. So it is necessary to develop a taxonomy. That means a criteria to categorize the level of analysis, the level of knowledge connected to the visual literacy. Starting from the literature, we distinguish 4 levels of knowledge connected to the visual literacy. These levels of knowledge we will apply in our analysis, in our exercise of analysis. So the first level of knowledge is called visual atomic knowledge. Visual atomic knowledge, what is the atomic knowledge? The knowledge of the singular element. When you start the analysis, the activity of analysis, you start of seeing the elements of one photo, of one picture. So you try to recognize image, sound, icons, written text that compose this, this image, this photograph. It is atomic knowledge. I have the knowledge about the singular elements that compose the image. In the same level, we can also recognize general feature, for example, in your case of a photo. Photography of a performing art, no? Because you recognize some elements in this photo that can help you to recognize the genre of the photo, the type of the photo, that have the specific rules to apply. This is the first level. It is expressive knowledge, the knowledge of elements of the image and the recognize of the type of the genre of the image. Or for example, if we want to do an example with the movie, we are able to distinguish the comedy, drama, or thriller, I don't know, because there are a different kind of a construction of narration, no? So we recognize a different genre easy, and when I see some elements of the movie. Now, this is atomic knowledge. In the second level, we have the conceptual knowledge. What does it mean? We try to understand the meaning behind the photo. For example, I see the photo, I recognize the element. So what could be the meaning of this photo? What could be the point of view of the author of this photo? The author, what could be the objective of the author? Now we try to understand what could be the meaning. When we talk about the meaning, we have to distinguish also in this case at two levels. What I see and what I think. For example, I can see in a superficial way the history, the storytelling. I see the narration of the storytelling. I see represented, for example, I don't know, a trees, an house, that could be the representation of the family and so on. This is the notative message. What do I see? What do I see? No, there are the connection between the shapes with the symbol of this shape. This is the first meeting that I can recognize when I see an image. But the representation of the house could be the representation, for example, of the, I don't know, the tradition of the family or other things. So I am able to recognize the second meaning starting from the first representation. This is a conceptual knowledge. I try to interpret, to evaluate different kinds of meaning that I can recognize in this image. The first meaning, what I see, and what I think about the meaning of this representation, the second level of information. I don't know if, do you want to say something? Excuse me. Do you want to say something? No, you try to, no. You, no. Yes. No, that's right. Okay. I think that you want to say something. This is the second level that is conceptual knowledge. The third level is the procedural knowledge. Procedural knowledge is a knowledge about the rules, the grammatical rules that I have to apply to construct a storytelling. For example, if you want to construct a thriller, I have to respect the rule of the thriller genre, for example. Or if I want to construct a comedy or other thing, I have to respect the rule. So the procedural knowledge means the knowledge of algorithm, we can say, the grammatical rule that I have to apply to communicate in an effectively way the message. Obviously, we can find into the same genre, we can find also the personalization of the representation. Or we can find different ideology of the author, or different styles of the representation. So there are some general rule that I have to respect. And then I can personalize this rule to narrate, to communicate in an innovative way the specific message. No, so we can find different styles of representation into the same genre. For example, if we talk about the historical photo, we can find different authors that are in the same genre, historical photo, but have the personal style. the personal identity to represent this style. And I can recognize this in this level, the procedural knowledge, because I recognize the frequency of the rules apply in the photo connected to the specific author. In the last knowledge, metacognitive knowledge, our attention will be focused not into the photo, but out the photo. Why? Because we said, I think, in the previous lesson, that the photo as the images are not isolated, but they are included in the social, cultural, political context, historical context, and sometimes this representation can communicate with the social custom because we want to express a specific point of view of the reality, no? So in this level, it is very important to start from the photo, and starting from the photo to recognize what could be the ideology of the author, what could be the potential historical period where the photo is created, in a specific communicational context where this photo is included, why the editorial system, the editorial tool, the editorial system decide to come si dice, to public this photo and so on. You have to think about general variables, social, cultural, communicative, we can say variables that influenced the publication of this photo in specific social context. And what could be also the potential audiences of this photo? This photo was produced for a specific target, no? The knowledge of the target, the analysis of the target, it is very, very important because it can influence the way of composing your photo. Also the perspective that you decide to choose to represent something, you know, because the audience has to recognize itself in the photo, in the message of the photo. So it is very important that there is the communication, the contact with your potential audience and the choices of the design, science, and other thing into the same photo. Guarda se c'è la connessione, se siamo connessi.
Sì, ma sì.
Ok.
Adesso no.
No, infatti.
2 secondi fa sì.
One moment, because I lose the connection between students online. Vado? No. Ok.
Ora
Dovrebbe essere andato.
vediamo se appare.
Ok. Mhm. Ok, we go beyond. Okay, so starting from this level of knowledge, we try to work with the specific grid of analysis. I introduced you at the end of this presentation at the level of analysis. Now I want to say something about the critical competencies that I hope that you acquire at the end of this course. No? When we talk about critical competencies, in your opinion, what could be the meaning? What is the meaning of critical thinking, critical analysis? I want to involve you.
Like ability to analyze an image, stuff, like observe the views, something like that.
Okay, different kind of images, you say, in different communicative contexts could be, but why could be critical? Because it is the analysis of images in general, you know, but could be critical. Why critical?
Different concepts to analyze the intent of created. Understand why that image makes sense.
Okay. It could be the interesting point of view. We have to understand why are created this image, this composition, the choices, what could be the intention, the ideologies it is an aspect of the critical analysis, right? There is another student. You open. No, you.
Like, I think critical is also questioning everything about the product, for example, the image.
Okay.
So trying to understand why, how, what, who bought it, what it's part of it. And also, like, trying to put in all the knowledges we have, life and experiences, in understanding this questions of the product itself.
Right. Okay. Starting from your definition, we can say that there are different levels. I can say expressive or aesthetical level when you recognize the elements put in the image, for example. Now we can talk in this case about the figurative analysis and plastic analysis. No? It is also, we can say that it will be the specific analysis that we will do. Another aspect is conceptual. So you try to understand what could be different meaning, that you put in the image in this case. So we talk about storytelling, the meaning of the storytelling, what is the construction of narration, the author, we can say the author, the producer introducing this. And then what said your colleague could be metacognitive analysis. When starting from the photo, I try to go out the photo, what we said before, to understand the reason why that could be political, social, cultural, the advertising or commercial, we can say, that used by the producer to produce this. So critical analysis means many things, many perspectives we can use. Critical analysis, yes, critical competencies. Now I give you always the scientific definition by the international literature. So the critical analysis, the critical thinking is one dimension of digital competence. Yes, when we talk about digital competencies, there are many meanings of digital competence. Critical analysis, specific digital competencies, is a soft skills also in this case as the visual literacy that we said before, and means reading, understanding and interpret information and media sources. So it is very similar to visual literacy. We talk about visual literacy, critical competencies, that it is an effect of the visual literacy. If I acquire knowledge, skill in visual literacy, I develop a critical competence. I will be able to apply some knowledge and some skill to analyze the visual inputs of different kind of media, of different kind of reality. The second definition is helping students, but also people, citizens, to develop an informed and critical understanding of the nature of the media, the techniques used by them, and the impact of these techniques. More specifically, it is education that aims to increase students' understanding and enjoyment of how the media work, how they produce meaning, how they are organized, and how they construct a reality, what your colleague said before. This is the general definition. The critical reading is also in this case a set of skills to perceive, to analyze, to read, to understand the messages in different levels. The first level is the acquisition of languages, codes, a symbolic convention to recognize these different kind of image. The second level is the ability to grasp, to describe the structure and the organization of the visual messages. So I recognize the element, I recognize the disposition of this element in the image. So I try to understand the narrative structure of this image. Penso che ho perso anche questo caso. The third is the ability to frame, to understand the meaning of this image shared. And the fourth is the autonomy of the people, of the students, to evaluate the information, the effectiveness of the information or other things. Tell me when you don't see this. I don't know why. That's right. Okay, I also, for people that is online, I try to create a sharing. The technology can help us. Okay. Right. Okay. This is the critical reading. In the European context, when we talk about critical thinking, many authors talk about data information literacy. It is the official definition of critical thinking in the international framework called DigiComp. DigiComp 2.0, I don't know if you know this, but this is the specific information data literacy that means to browsing, searching, filtering information on the web, to evaluate information, and also to be able to store and retrieve information in digital context, in digital containers. There are other information, other definition of the critical thinking. For example, the UNESCO is the first organization that give the first definition, scientific definition of critical thinking. But you see that if you see this definition, there are always the same the same concept, no? Media knowledge, analysis and evaluation, production, and so on. You see that there are always the same concept in different definition of media literacy. And but I give you this definition, and you can find in your Google Classroom. There are different kind of definitions. Now I want to introduce, we'll use in our lesson, no? A multi-level model of analysis. What does mean analyzing images? Image interpretation is complex, can change, it is dynamic, and it can activate different components. Obviously, you have to consider the prior visual and conceptual skills and knowledge. You have to evaluate, to consider the perceptual materials of the image, and you have to activate operation to interpret the analysis, the meaning of the image. Our critical analysis will be structured in 4 main dimensions. Expressive. You have to understand very well this part because the exam will be focused about these levels. Expressive analysis, textual analysis, extract textual analysis, and contextual analysis. We start today about the expressive analysis. Expressive analysis includes the figurative analysis and the plastic analysis. And today we talk about this level, expressive analysis, if we have time. The second level is a textual narrative. Our attention will be focused about the meaning and the syntactic rules that the author or producer can apply to communicate different kind of meanings using image, using photographies. So we try to talk about different level of meanings that we can recognize in the image. In the third level, we talk about extra textual analysis. It means to find in the image extra textual elements that can help the user to recognize the historical period or the cultural meaning, at this specific point of view to tell the specific topic. Okay, so the photo communicate. In the photo, I can find extra textual elements that can help the viewer to recognize something, the social and cultural elements. The last level is contextual. This level is focused on communication field. It means, for example, in this level, we try to understand what could be the ideology of the author of the photo, and what could be the communicative context where this photo is produced. No? For example, if the photo is produced for the magazine, for the television or for in the digital context, or for example, talk about media is not easy because you know that each media is a system. No, so in the media they are the ideology of production. Also, there are the political variables that can influence the point of view of representation. So in this field, we try to understand the industry of communication that can influence the point of view of representation of the photo of the image. Let's see. Right. Dammi un po', vediamo. Okay. This is the final grid, the final levels that we have to consider during the course. So at the end of the course, you are able to do the expressive linguistic analysis, figurative thematic analysis, discursive analysis, semi-narrative analysis, context analysis in the text, ideology of the author, communicative context. All these levels, now we start to talk about this level to give you some concept to understand better. For each of these levels, you see that there are the specific knowledge that you have to acquire. No? For example, if you want to use the expressive linguistic, you have to develop the atomic knowledge. That means you have to recognize the singular elements, for example, in the photo. To do the figurative and thematic analysis, you have to develop a knowledge, the procedural algorithm analysis. It means that you have to understand the rule of representation of the image to recognize these in the analysis. When you will do the semi-narrative analysis, you have to apply the procedural heuristic knowledge. It means that you have to recognize the rule used by the author to represent the object, to represent an image, to represent the reality. And then the metacognitive means the ideology of the author. Communicative contents means they use the metacognitive analysis means that you have to acquire knowledge about the feature of the audience, feature about the channel, feature about the feedback, and so on. Some aspect in the communicative process that can help you to understand better the meaning of the photo. That's all right. I don't know if there are questions about this part. I give you many information, I know, theoretical information, but I think for your work, it is very useful, this last part of this analysis. Do you want to ask something about this, or we can start? It is clear now what the information? Yes, I think, yes. Yeah, okay, but if you want to ask something, you can ask also during the lesson questions about this. Right. Now we start from the expressive analysis. So we start operatively, pragmatically to develop the first analysis, expressive analysis. I will share this presentation on Google Classroom at the end of lesson, today or tomorrow, I don't know. And I want to start the second part of the lesson. I have to find it. Where is it? Eccolo. Okay. We start. We are here. Today we talk about expressive analysis, expressive linguistic analysis, e figurative thematic analysis.
No.
Nemmeno online?
Adesso siete disponibili.
Dobbiamo provare a collegarci al PC perché capisco questa cosa.
Non ho fatto il punto.
Quello lo devi fare tu. Cioè facciamo due cose contemporaneamente. Eccole, vai? Okay. Okay. This is our attention. I give you a definition. Expressive analysis is an exploratory analysis of digital text where the subject identifies and recognizes all objects in the text and their relationship. This is a perceptive analysis from which derives some cognitive selection and selective memorization of the object. I give you an example. What do you see? Yes, different kind of what kind of fruits? Fruits. If you, that's right, many fruits. That's right. It is difficult, many fruits. But you now I give you other information. But the fruits, that's okay. You want to add some other information about this? It is very easy, obviously. No, but it is useful to create a dialogue with you and to understand what the meaning about this level. Very easy level. I have to recognize all fruits that are in this image. Now, this is the expressive analysis. Now, it is very easy because there are only fruits, different kinds of fruits. But starting from these fruits, you can see other things. What? People, a face about a man, of a man. That's right. You see the man about the composition of this fruit. So the singular elements of the fruits, the relationship with the elements give you a narration, something, a shape. This is the face. No? This is the figurative analysis. When you, starting from the singular element, try to analyze what is the superficial, we can say, representation of the image. This is the same. Starting from this image, you can see, okay, I tell you that this image is the representation about the king. Now, if you know the author, the painter, we can say, you can understand in the second time that it isn't a common face, but it is very famous face. Now, it is a famous face to the specific king. But I can give you also other information, because if you search information about the author and the style of this author, you know that this image can represent something. What, in your opinion? See this image, tell me what could be the meaning of this image. No. You think, I share with your colleague online. You see better this image and try to tell me what could be the representation, the meaning of this representation. You can describe this image. You talk about this.
And each person has like a and different emotions.
Okay, I can accept now. Please. Yeah, you. I'm sorry, I don't know that I say enough, but that's I do. Right.
You can also read different social classes. So the flowers or the lazy of a higher class, and trees of the tree below these of the ballet.
Okay, now I see I can do the right answer. But it's okay. You see that you start from the elements to recognize the connection between times that could be social.
The 4 seasons.
What is the reason of that? Well, why?
Because usually innocent fruits or vegetables that are actually received from fruits. So the most practical is one of both on which
Okay.
Right?
As if it's very interesting how Okay, there are all interesting answers. We can say different stage of age, different social class, we can say. The seasons and the process, remember, are emotion, different kind of emotion. There could be acceptable, but there is only one right answer. Very case is simple. The winner is simple. But it's from your understanding. So understand that starting from singular element to try to recognize the meaning of this. No? You starting from your personal perception of the photo space, no? But the cultural can have this information, the cultural, the research, the information on the web or in other sources can help you recognize the rights. Okay, so you starting from this example, you understand what could be the meaning of expressive and figurative. Expressive singular elements, a figurative decomposition of this element that give you a shape without a necessary meaning. The meaning will come in the second time, but our attention will be focused about the aesthetic point of view in this phase, in this level. Okay. When we talk about shape, about the image, we are the specific scientific field where we analyze image. That is semiotic. Do you know semiotic field? No. There is someone that comes from in communication studies. Yes, you know what is a semiotic, right? Yeah, because you are semiotic Cervelli, right? I remember this. Yes, right, semiotic. Okay, we are in this field, the semiotic field, that's right. Obviously, the image is a visual text because the text is not only written text, but it could be the text, the written text is a shape, different shape, that artificial shape created by the human. But so the image is a visual text. It is a fabric of science whose conformations and relationships are functional to a project of interpretation aimed at the viewer. So in this field, the interest in the way the semiotic is focused in the way where the image produces meaning. So we try to understand how you can create meaning starting from different kind of images. So there are some procedures of making meaning starting from this image, and this procedure, this process, this process is included in the semiotic field, the semiotic scientific field. For example, now in this slide, I want to give you, I want to show the difference between figure and science. The semiotic is the science of the science. What could be the difference between figure and sign? The figure are the singular elements, not necessarily they have meaning, not the point in this case. The combination of this point give you a science because it give a shape that could be a shape of the reality of the fantasy, I don't know, but that it could be connected to the imaginary of the humans, for example, and have a specific of figures. In this case, give us a tree. In the second case, the same figure gives a flower. So the figure is the atom. And the science is the combination of these atoms that give you a shape, give you an image. So when the semiotic is the science of this, is the science of the sign, not of the figure, but of the sign in this case. Some examples of the science is here, no? you work in graphic field, in infographic field, you talk with the icons. The icons are the text, are the signs, because they have the meaning, they have the specific shape. What is the text? Generally, we can find different texts in different media. For example, the book could be the text. The photography is a text. The movie is text. The messages in the website, in the web, in the internet are the text. So the texts have different configurations. So we talk always about the text. Text written, text painted, text animated painting, and so on. Always text. The text has a signification. The text has a unit of signification. When we talk about the text, there is always a meaning. If we don't have a meaning, it's not text, it is not sign, it is a figure, not signs. When we talk about signs, you have to talk about signification, about a meaning connected to this. The second feature is that each text is included in communication process, in communication context, because there is the intentionality of the author, of the producer, and the potential target where this message, this text is oriented. The composition of the text is influenced by this aspect. The owner, you can say the author, the source, and the audience, and other feature. There is a specific communication process that we have to consider. The text, each text has requirements. Each text has limits. It's not infinity. It is limits. There are the specific rules that you have to respect. If you use, for example, the infographic languages, there is the specific grammar that you have to use. Graphic way is the same. There is always the rules that you have to use when you decide to produce a different kind of text. Right, this is the general information. Communication process. Okay, tell me all elements, components of the communication process that can influence the text. Tell me. When we talk about communication process, what could be the elements in this communication process? The communication process is composed by, tell me, it is very easy. It is the first lesson. Don't worry. You can say what you want. It is very easy. One. Tell me one.
The thing that you want to communicate.
You say what you want to communicate, that is the message.
Yeah, that's the one element.
The method is the composition of the text. Right. When we talk about the communication process, obviously we have a message. That's right. Then, receiver, right. Receiver, text.
The meaning.
The meaning.
No, not the meaning,
The channel, that's right. The code, right, yes. Code, message, channel, receiver. Yeah, the producer, you can say your source that produces message, right? Then the interpretation. The interpretation is the process of signification, right? It's very useful, it's a complex state because the signification can be applied by the source, by the receiver, because when the source, when the author created the message, activated the interpretation and production. And the receiver, when the receiver is in front of the message, activates the interpretation, decoding process. So we can say coding is the signification applied to the author, and decoding is the process of signification applied by the receiver. Right. Two things. There are other two things. The context. We say that the context is very important where the communication project happens. And the feedback. No, the feedback. What is the feedback? Response of the. It's very important, the response by the receiver. Why it's important for communication? Why?
It's important to see how they perceive your message. Could be negative, could be influential.
Exactly. The data is central because the ability of communication is effective or not effective. Because if you want to create a very static design product, but if this product is not understood by people, is not it's technically very good for you, but not for people. So people very fresh to understand that they want to interact. This is interactive, yeah. It is for designer, but generally in communication project. Okay. So this is an example. This is an example of a combination of all elements that we said. Now we talk about the source, the receivers, the codes that are useful to create, to code, to decode the message, the channel that we recognize, the feedback, the context. Like we don't talk about the noise. The noise could be an obstacle, because sometimes I can say something, but the other can understand other thing, because I don't know, there are technical problems in communication, or there are other noises that can help the interpretation of the message by people. This is the same communication process applied. I don't know, for example, in the newsroom, no? In the newsroom, there is, the source is the designer, but not only the designer. Designer work in this system, have to create an article, for example, an infographic in this newsroom. The channel is the newspaper. In this case, the codes used are the visual languages. The readers recognize these visual languages and give a feedback, the customer satisfaction about this message. This message, this customer satisfaction can give you information about the effectiveness of your message or not. Obviously, one message cannot be totally effective. This is effective for the specific target. Now, could be effective for one target, could be not effective to another target. So when you create a message, when you choose the codes, when you create the right combination of codes, you have always to think about your hypothetical target, because you choose color, shape, narration starting from this. Right. Okay, this is the scientific definition of the semiotics and sign. Quindi semiotics is the science of sign, and the very famous semiotics is Peirce that give this definition. Semiotics is the science that studies the process of signification, what we say before in the scientific point of view. Obviously, in semiotics, there are many authors. For example, Peirce is very famous because he created the meaning of semiotics, the science of science. That an example is icons. Icons is a science. But there are, for example, Ferdinand de Saussure, it is another famous author in semiotics, that explain the meaning of codes. The code is not science, is a set of signs. Now, one science is a code. The set of signs, the code is a set of sciences, code or language. So there is the major categories that they include different kind of science. Okay, and then there is a Yamslab that talk about languaging. That means the general grammar rule of the literacy of codes. Science code e languaging, oppure sign, code or language e languaging. There are different level of complexity. Very simple sign, medium code because it's set of codes, and languaging establish the rules that you have to use in this. It is an example as the language, The science is the word. The sentence could be the code. And the rule of the grammar is the languaging, in this case, is the level of complexity. So, the semiotics is the science that studies signs that are the minimal units of language, what we say before, studies the way signs are organized into signifying sets, what we say before, codes or languages. And also semiotics study the social context where these languages are used. The social context help semiotics to recognize the grammar rule that you have to use this language. This is an example. If you see, the signs are the circle, no? In this case, are the language. What is this? This is the symbol of the Olympics, no? You say that each circle is the symbol of the continent. For example, green is Europe, red is America. So each 5 continents for 5 circles. So the sign is the single circle. The language is the rule, the meaning of these circles related each other, such as this, the Olympics in this case. The context. In this case, the author used the general symbol of the Olympics to say something, to express a problem, a social problem, the ideology. No, they use the language to create a new interpretation. No, for example, in this case, the circle, the America, bring away the America from this agreement, we can say, the agreement that there is Olympics agreements. And there is the personal, the interpretation in this case. There is the complexity, very easy, very complex in the third. To understand the meaning of the third, you have to understand the social contents, the choices of this image. When we talk the objective study of semiotics are the signs, we say the codes, what we say, the text, the messages, and the context times. Now you have to understand these when we talk about the semiotic. We talk about the sign, is a communicative atoms, and so on. When we talk about the sign, it is very important to consider these 2 aspects, the meaning and the signifier, the concept and the expression. When you have to consider a sign, there is in nature, we can say in the reality, we can distinguish different kinds of sign. For example, we distinguish a natural sign, that means a sign created by the nature, and artificial signs, that means signs created by the human people to communicate something. No, this is the first the distinction I can say. The code is a generally shared system for the organization of signs. The code is the language, what we said before, and it is included in the coding and decoding process. And when we talk about the codes, we have to consider the semantic level. It means the meaning that we have to that the code want to communicate, and the grammatical rules, the syntactic level, the grammatical rules that the author use to do the effective communication. I give you an example of a code. QR code, come si dice? Codice a barre. Literacy, they are the examples of codes. Generally, when we talk about code, it is not sufficient, because in the code we can find subcodes, because the codes, the languages could be complex. So the subcode that are the specific languages that I can find in the general code. For example, I can find a specific language civic community. So generally, there are different kinds of codes. So we have the elementary codes that these codes don't need a very complex signification, complex interpretation. And there are complex code, such as, for example, the literacy, the Morse code, or for example, the binary code, where you have to combine the sign to create, to construct, to build the message. So there are elementary code, very easy. A complex code that there are complex that you have to combine to create the meaning. In the marketing, I think, yes, we can also distinguish the elaborated coded and restricted coded. It is very used in advertising field, because the elaborated coded is the code specialized for classes, for elites, for people that have specific knowledge, specific competencies. So they are specific messages that are not understandable for all people. Restricted code are code that are democratic, I can say, that all people, different people can understand, even if they don't have competencies, or specific competencies, specific knowledge, and so on. You can choose the kind of code that you want to use according to the specific target that you have to achieve with your project. Now I give you some examples. In the marketing, there are the codes of high profile and low profile. High profile when the code is focused on the specific target with the specific culture, starting from these hypothetical targets, do choices of the message, of the color, and so on. I give you some example about this. For example, if we want to talk about this, it is high profile, it is advertising, no? It is, in this case, the author use a high profile style. Why, in your opinion? What you can see in this image? What you can see? A car. What kind of a car? Maserati, right, okay. There is a written test. There is a brand, but it's a brand in the context, because Maserati is brand. There is also a girl, we can say, the specific girl. No? So, the color, brown, black, no? That's right. So, what could be the message of this advertising? Europe, I can say, fortify the connection between champions for the specific right values. in this case. No, this is the meaning. Obviously, you cannot able to understand this starting from the image. You need cultural variable, cultural information to understand this. This image is comprehensible for people that recognize the young people, that recognize also the style of Maserati. So interpret this image starting from cultural knowledge, previous knowledge, or we can say information that can search online to recognize the value. For this reason, it is high profile, it is elaborated, because it's not comprehensible for the mass. Another could be this. For example, you can something about this. What is the representation? Codes where it is focused on different, we can say, product in advertising, and we can say the message is very descriptive. There are cultural or ideology, cultural variables that can help the user to understand the meaning. Sometimes there are many noises, because there are many things represented in this kind of advertising. This is an example of low profile. Then, obviously, the codes can create the problems of interpretation. No, we say before we can activate many interpretation by different people, because people try to understand the meaning starting from the cultural background, the educational background. So there is a problem when you are designing. There is a problem of the controllability, we can say. You have to check the information. You have also to give less, but to concentrate the attention to the specific meaning that you want to share with your target. So there is a level of arbitrariness with the people that you are not able to check. You are not able to check because the users are very different, and the background could be different, and the level of interpretation could be many. So in this case, you are not able to check, to manage very well the meaning of your message. This is an aspect of the code that you have to consider in this case. We talked before about languages, and we say that language or code is a conventional code used to convey information, to communicate, and so on. And languages is the ability to use the sign system to communicate. So the language included the different languages. We can say different type of languages, starting from the media system that we decided to use, visual, auditory, physical, verbal, and so on. There are general information connected to design. That's right. I think that we stop now. So we restart in the next lesson, if you are ready. If you want, we can start in the next lesson. Or want to continue? You want to continue lesson, or would you like to do a break if you want? So we finish a break because there are many information today. Okay. Sono troppo teoriche queste lezioni. I percorsi internazionali sono...
L'ultima parte è stata più interattiva, perché comunque hanno mostrato un po' l'immagine, le farti parlare, cioè secondo me si deve anche un po' rompere il ghiaccio. L'ultima parte è stata più leggera. Ma secondo me è teorica per tutti, in particolare per loro.
Cioè non me la sento di andare avanti perché comunque mi sembra troppa teoria sta cosa. Cioè,
Sì,
diventa-
no, più che altro perché sono cose anche un po' astratte, non fate. A che ora devono tornare? Beh,
You have to come back at 2:30. Ok?
allora hanno lezione alle 2:30 con chi arriva?
Alle 2:30. E così via, 2:30 si dice.
Question exam since
Yes.
it's like photography and
Yes.
And what I've read from the first presentation, it's like 2 exams in the classroom.
With me.
Yes. And then there's an oral exam at the end and then a graphing project.